All right, breaking just moments ago, we learned that President Trump has submitted written answers to the special counsel, Robert Mueller, and the president's attorney, Jay Sekulow, issued this statement, quote, "The questions presented dealt with issues regarding the Russia-related topics of the inquiry. The president responded in writing, Rudy Giuliani adding, quote, it has been our position from the outset that much of what has been asked raised serious constitutional issues and was beyond the scope of a legitimate inquiry. This remains our position today. The president has nonetheless provided unprecedented cooperation. The special counsel has been provided with more than 30 witnesses, 1.4 million pages of material, and now the president's written responses to questions. It is time to bring this inquiry to a conclusion. Make no mistake, huge win tonight for the president and his legal team. His attorneys were pushing for written answers. That means no subpoena fight, no subpoena before the grand jury, no in-person interview, no year-long fight headed towards the U.S. Supreme Court, no perjury traps. And keep in mind, these were all questions. None of them were about obstruction of justice. Why? Because there never was any, just like there was never collusion. Instead, Mueller focused on this Russia collusion, and time again, the president's already answered these questions. Denied any collusion, any conspiracy, any coordination with any foreign government, especially Russia. And so now this has just become a formality. Now, after spending nearly 600 days, the investigation might soon finally be coming to an end. The media hysteria, conspiracy theories, well, they'll just find something new to lie to you about. Now, if we really care about truth and equal justice in the United States today, well, tonight the door is wide open. Hillary Clinton's bought and paid for, dirty Russian dossier filled with Russian lies, rampant FISA fraud, abuse committed using those bought and paid for Hillary Russian lies, literally fraud committed against judges to get subpoenas or get warrants against Trump campaign associate Carter Page. And then after that, the coordinated leak efforts to literally lie to the American people, propagandize them, misinform them, so that would influence the 2016 election. That all now needs to be investigated if we really care about Russia collusion and equal justice under the law and equal application of our laws. And tonight, the Mueller probe, well, that seems to be winding down. Well, the New York Times is reporting that Trump wanted to order the Department of Justice to prosecute James Comey and Hillary Clinton. Now, does that sound like breaking news to you? Because it isn't. It shouldn't, and because we know how the president feels about Hillary and Comey, and we know Hillary committed crimes. It's not even in dispute. And, of course, the anti-Trump haters over on Conspiracy TV, MSNBC, and fake news CNN acting like they found it. They've been looking for 2 years, and now they found it. Maybe they could have listened to his rallies that they wouldn't cover when they were yelling CNN sucks and lock her up. They would have learned something there. Take a look.
This is what happens in authoritarian countries. The president orders, the leader orders the investigation and prosecution of his political enemies.
I think it's prima facie evidence of abuse of power.
This is absolutely off the charts. Donald Trump is basically running his office like he's the head of a banana republic.
I think this is a scandal at a 15 on a 1 to 10 level. He was essentially trying to use the apparatus of the state to punish his political enemies.
He never did anything. Never. Ever. It's a phony story. Fake news. And when the story broke, by the way, we reached out to Greg Jarrett for his reaction. He said, how is this even a story? He's right. He'll join us later with much more. Now, during the 2016 campaign, then candidate Trump repeatedly said that he wanted Hillary Clinton prosecuted for her email server scandal. And Clinton and Comey both should have been investigated. We only investigate Trump, I guess, in this political climate. He gave Hillary Clinton the nickname Crooked Hillary for a good reason. And let's be honest. She should have been prosecuted. The single easiest obstruction of justice case, slam dunk, that I've ever seen in my life. You know, when you delete subpoenaed emails, acid wash the hard drive, bleach bit, hammers, devices. And by the way, Comey's actions legally need to have been looked into and should be. And when we come back also tonight, later on in the program, we'll have Senator Graham joining us. He'll weigh in on all of it. Now we turn to the situation with Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince. Now, pay close attention. This is going to be very hard for liberals and the media to keep up with. I want them to pay very close attention. The murder of the Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi was reprehensible. That is evil. And I have little doubt that this evil act was carried out in the Saudi consulate in Istanbul at the direction of Saudi Arabia's crown prince, known as MBS. On this program, frankly, in all the media, well, there's nobody that's been tougher on Saudi Arabia and nobody more consistent of my criticisms of Saudi Arabia for a whole host of reasons. I've been their loudest critic for good reason. I've called out Saudi Arabia's rampant human rights abuses, their complete lack of common decency, Saudi Arabia's treatment of women. They can't drive, up to recently couldn't vote, and literally have to ask their husbands if they may travel abroad. Gay people are killed just for being who they are. Christians and Jews, oh, guess what? They are literally not allowed. You can't build a temple. You can't build a Christian church, and they are persecuted in Saudi Arabia. And up until recently, women in Saudi Arabia, well, they pretty much couldn't do anything, without being around a male guardian from their family, or else they'd get in trouble. And by the way, women need permission for just about anything, even to marry, to work. Being gay is illegal, punishable by death. Christians and Christian churches and temples banned. Now, while the Clintons were more than happy to accept tens of millions of dollars, and think about this, the Clintons took tens of millions of dollars to enrich themselves and their foundation from the Saudi kingdom. Now, what did they get? They've never been this critical of Saudi Arabia, as critical as we've been. I'll call out evil wherever I see it. The murder of Jamal Khashoggi was evil. The world is an ugly, dangerous, complicated place. And today, President Trump, he issued a statement reaffirming America's strategic partnership with Saudi Arabia, and had this to say to reporters at the White House that they took such umbrage with. Take a look.
If you look at Iran, just take a look at Iran, and you look at what they're doing. They are a terrorist nation right now. Although I must tell you, they're a lot better right now than they were when I took office. When I took office, they were heading in a very, very bad direction. And at some point, things very positive, frankly, could happen with Iran, but we also need a counterbalance. And Israel needs help also. If we abandon Saudi Arabia, it would be a terrible mistake.
President's right, and I want to explain in all specificity why this isn't about politics. As evil as this kingdom is, as I have said over the years, the president is right. Saudi Arabia has now emerged at an important point in history as a partner in the Middle East. Let me explain this. And it brings us to a quick Hannity history lesson. As a country, we have to make a lot of tough, very, very difficult strategic decisions, not like putting millions in your pocket like, the Clintons, and deal with a lot of immoral and even in some cases evil international partners. I'll give you one quick example, World War II. We struck alliances with Stalin, a mass murderer in Russia, the former Soviet Union. That evil dictator would even go on to murder more people than Adolf Hitler. But the survival of America and Europe was in jeopardy. And during the Cold War, we partnered with dozens of brutal dictators to violently squash the spread of the evils of communism. And now Saudi Arabia, similarly, a horrible regime, but there's a key alliance that is now in place, and that would be the United States and Israel and Egypt and Jordan and also, the Saudis and the Emirates. And what is the alliance against? Iranian hegemony. Iran is currently the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. They are funding numerous proxy wars. And if the mullahs that chant death to America, death to Israel, and want to wipe Israel off the map, if they ever get nuclear weapons, millions and millions of people can die. So we have to make a strategic decision. We can't take that risk. In fact, the current alliance, again, the U.S., Israel, Jordan, Egypt, the UAE, the Saudis, they've been a crucial force in checking this Iranian hegemony. And this is the alliance that we now need to stop these radical mullahs with their radical threats from ever getting their hands on nuclear weapons. Still, many on the left, they're in meltdown mode over the president's handling of Saudi Arabia. You know what? Where have they been? Former Obama U.S. ambassador Samantha Power tweeting, quote, "It is a mean and nasty world, but Trump's siding with the meanest and nastiest out there, whether, El-Sisi or Putin or assassin MBS will leave the world even nastier." This statement is a green light for would-be murderers in countries that have things that Trump thinks we need. How about a history lesson just for you, Samantha? Maybe you forgot about your time in the Obama administration because it was Barack Hussein Obama who sent tanks, F-16 fighter jets, over $1 billion to a guy by the name of Mohammed Morsi. Remember, he was with the radical Muslim Brotherhood that rose to power in Egypt. Morsi, the guy that once referred to people in Israel and Jews as the descendants of apes and pigs, and the Muslim Brotherhood also funding terror around the world. And by the way, that's your boss, former boss, Obama, who partnered with them for no strategic reason. Obama gifted that guy billions of dollars, material support, planes, tanks, and cold hard cash. And we can't forget that, yeah, Obama also partnered with the radical Islamic mullahs in Iran, the #1 state sponsors of terror. In a horribly flawed nuclear deal, the U.S. sent $1.7 billion in cash and other currency directly to the mullahs. Yep, the same people that plot the destruction of Israel and the United States on a daily basis and think God is instructing them to do it, and treat women and Christians and Jews and gays and lesbians the way they do. So, Susan Powers, spare us the feigned, phony, selective moral outrage. And remember, as I pointed out earlier, Hillary Clinton totally ignored the Saudis' treatment of women, gays, Christians, and Jews for millions of dollars in cash because they bought her silence. She's never criticized the way we have regularly on this program. So today, with Iran now posing the single biggest threat to the United States, the Middle East, and the world, this strategic partnership with Saudi Arabia is too important, if at all possible, to dismantle. If we can keep it together, it's smart. It's incredibly complicated, incredibly dangerous in the Middle East. And on top of that, the Saudis are spending hundreds of millions of dollars on weapons purchases that, by the way, both Russia and China wanted, and we got. And that means what? We're going to make, let's see, Putin and the leaders of China rich again? I don't think that's a good idea. And take Americans, their jobs away from them? I'm not willing to do that. And do we want to help out, put a new alliance together? Let's see, the Iranians, the Syrians, China and Putin and Russia? It's a dark, evil, ugly world at times, far more complicated than what liberal networks that hate Donald Trump even, taking a breath could ever possibly understand. All right, we have to turn to another situation closer to home. For weeks, we have been sounding the alarm about the massive caravan of migrants marching toward our southern border. Now, we have tracked them through Central America as they broke down Guatemala's border fence, stormed into southern Mexico. We followed this journey north towards the U.S. border and warned about possible gang criminal infiltration. We showed you how the Trump administration prepared for the approaching caravan. Thousands of active duty troops were sent to the border. Razor wire was deployed to bolster the fencing, and new barriers were also constructed. And hardworking U.S. Border Patrol agents stepped their reconnaissance efforts up. A serious situation, but not according to the Democrats. Remember, for a while, they were ignoring the migrant caravan and accusing Republicans of fabricating this phony crisis in the lead up to an election for political gain. Others called it all a conspiracy theory. Obama laughed at the idea in one event that he was speaking at. No, it's a real situation with real consequences. We now know our own DHS and leaders in Mexico saying that over 500 criminals are now traveling with the migrants. And according to a new report, law enforcement has even paid undercover informants to address security threats. By the way, that's called being smart. And yesterday we saw in Tijuana authorities having to arrest 34 members of that caravan for offenses like public intoxication, disturbing the peace, resisting arrest. But despite all of this, a federal judge yesterday in San Francisco, what a shock, dealt a blow to the president's border security efforts and the rule of law, striking down his temporary asylum ban on those who don't apply at a port of entry. See why holding the U.S. Senate and the president out campaigning and we picking up seats the first time in 100 years a sitting president that gets the White House is able to do this in his first midterm election? And as I've been telling you, the majority of people are just searching for a better life. I get that. But we've got to vet anybody that wants to come here. 500 criminals infiltrated, walking with the caravan people. It's even why Mexican people now are protesting the caravans and saying they've been invaded and echoing President Trump's tough talk on the border. Take a look.
Donald Trump tenía la razón. Es una invasión. Lo que dijo Donald Trump es verdad. Es una invasión. Esto es lo que es. Y vienen más disque caravanas.
An invasion. Wow. And by the way, there are now thousands on our southern border. People on the left said they'd never get there. Our national security is about more than just security. Unvetted, unchecked, mass migration comes at a massive cost to you, we, the people, the taxpayer. A new report published in Forbes exposing how you, the American people, pay for health care for illegal immigrants to the tune of $18.5 billion a year. And according to the Center for Immigration Studies, illegal border crossings are up, and comes with it a massive price tag for the American people. We'll have a lot more on this developing situation also throughout the show. Now, tonight, the mainstream media is all but refusing to cover the crisis at the border, but instead they are busy obsessing over Ivanka Trump. She briefly using a private email account, this goes back 15 months ago, to send and receive some that were work-related messages. Talking about a few hundred emails 15 months ago. She was new on the job, new to Washington. All the emails have been handed over to the federal government. They're saying this is like Hillary, although they never criticized Hillary. Nothing's been deleted. A non-story. No classified information. But Hillary Clinton, when she was conducting State Department business with a private email and stored her email private in a bathroom mom and pop shop tech company, many on those emails she sent and received were deemed top secret. She lied to us. We can prove the lie. Thousands of emails were deleted. Nobody had ever heard of BleachBit, but now we know what it is. And guess what? None of these were turned over to the federal government. And the media remained silent. They covered for their friend the Clintons. And now they're treating Ivanka like, you know, the non-story, like the biggest scandal of the century. What a bunch of phony hypocrites. Take a look.
The arrogance, the incredible arrogance, as with a little measure of stupidity.
It's possible that she's just considered a princess and totally separate from the rest of the rules that the American government and the president's cabinet and advisors go by.
When the new Congress gets sworn in, the House Oversight Committee, they need to seek nothing less of Ivanka Trump and her lawyers than the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
They really are a mob family. They basically took what they were doing in the business, the Trump organization, and brought it to the White House and didn't care at all with what the rules were and what they can and cannot do.
Yeah, they didn't cover Hillary's crimes. We know she committed crimes. This is hypocrisy in action. This is why so many Americans don't trust the people in the media, nor should you. It's destroy Trump every second, every minute, every hour, every day. And they're just hypocrites. 2 weeks ago, remember the media ignoring the story? James Comey was using private email for FBI business. Basically crickets. You didn't hear the same type of criticism. And it's the same reason that members of the media now totally ignoring their former BFF, Michael Avenatti. For so many months, he was the poster child on cable news, fake news CNN, conspiracy TV, MSNBC, spreading vile claims against Justice Kavanaugh that they were spreading and believing. They believed. And guess what? He's now the left's. All of a sudden, they've changed their guilt by accusation motto, the new standard they created in America. Yet no one in the mainstream media, all of Avenatti's friends, well, they're pretty much silent and pretty much not saying anything. So what does that mean? It means the issue of sexual assault that's so serious, that's not what matters to them. Because if it did, they wouldn't be best friends with the Clintons, would they? They wouldn't have worshipped the media, been worshipped by the media as they've been. And Keith Ellison would have been vetted and called out. The issue really seems to be important of sexual assault or charges like this only if they can bludgeon a Republican. Then there's no due process. Then there's no presumption of innocence. Where's all the outrage on these channels? Their best friend. Now, if you're on the left, the rules don't apply to you. One set of justice for them and the guillotine pretty much for everyone else. And the mainstream media's post-election spin doesn't help either. Delusional liberals, the media, they're now trying to pull a fast one on the American people, saying that Trump has been rejected. This has been a massive blue wave. His presidency has been contained by some imaginary blue wave. In historical terms, it was a trickle, with some Democrats refusing to even call the election legitimate in races that didn't go their way. We saw that in Georgia in the governor's race, where Brian Kemp won. He won outright, but Stacey Abrams said Georgia did not have a free and fair election, and Kemp dismantled democracy. Really classy. Sounds like sore loserism. The Democrats did, of course, pull out some victories in the midterms. According to Fox's count, the Democrats, they won 232 seats in the House compared to 199 for the Republicans. 4 races yet to be called. They picked up 37 seats for the Democrats. But they lost all those seats, and Claire McCaskill's out, and Heitkamp's out, and Nelson is out, and Donnelly is out. Oh, yeah. So President Trump, if you actually look at numbers in history, did considerably, massively better than the previous 2 Democratic presidents. 2010, Obama's first midterm. Dems lost 63 seats in the House, 6 seats in the Senate. 94, Bill Clinton lost 52 seats in the House and 8 in the Senate. Now, bear in mind, the Republicans actually added to their Senate majority. And by the way, that number is likely to grow. Next week, an important election. If you are in Mississippi, that special election, November 27th, President Trump will be stumping for Cindy Hyde-Smith at a rally next Monday. As a matter of fact, 2 or 3, in her bid to become the first female senator from the great state of Mississippi. That is an important vote if you live there. This is a big race. A Republican victory means 53-47 in the Senate and further ensure that Trump's agenda of a booming economy, strong national security, tighter immigration, and, of course, originalist, constitutionalist judges and the appointments he wants goes forward.